Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, all of you amazing folks. I am really excited about my guest today, Mr. Nick Nimmin. I have been watching him for a very long time, pretty much since I first started doing YouTube about a year and a half ago. He's taught me so much about the YouTube process and how to generate better results from my channel. I'm relatively sure that a lot of you folks have actually taken the moment to check him out as well. But today we are not going to necessarily cover all of that stuff. We're going to talk about Nick's YouTube journey, how he got started, and all the things in between from there until here, and maybe even get to know a little bit more about the person behind the camera, which is one of the things that I love so much about the YouTube platform. I'm really excited, so let's bring Nick right in here. And let's see. There we go. Hello, Nick. Welcome to my YouTube journey. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and visit with us on the show.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk YouTube and basically hang out with you and everybody here in the chat. Just looking forward to the hangout.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. The first thing I always ask everybody, how long have you been on YouTube as a platform?
I've been on YouTube as a creator since September of 2014. Now, here's something that people don't know is I actually had about, I don't know, maybe 9 years ago, I had a channel that I put up to where I just put out tutorial videos. And that channel, the videos, everything sucked. So I ended up just uploading like 4 videos or whatever because I was in that mind state of like, hey, I'm just going to put up some videos and kind of just put up some videos, right? Because people, like I heard that people were putting up videos on YouTube. But then I did those 4 videos, walked away, never did like anything with it or whatever. And I didn't want to be a YouTuber. I didn't want to do that whole thing. But I was just putting them up just to kind of like see how it worked and all that good stuff. But yeah, there's a tutorial channel out there floating around to where you can hear my very first YouTube presentation, which it was something like this. Next, we're gonna go to the top of the screen here, which it sucked, right? It just completely sucked. But you know, like those are the little things that bring you to where you are, right?
Yes, that gives us all hope that we can, because I mean, you started out just like everyone else, which I think is awesome. Can you tell us a bit about what your channel's about now?
Absolutely. On my channel, I teach people how to grow channels, make videos, and all types of other YouTube-related stuff. And I do that by sharing the information and tools and resources that people need in order to, you know, really get things going for them on YouTube.
Awesome. So what made you actually decide to become a YouTuber, you know, to kick it into high gear? Was there a point where you said, you know, I could do this? Or did you just get the bug like the rest of us seem to have done?
Well, YouTube, like the very first venture into YouTube, outside of that tutorial thing, because that one doesn't count, but like my very first, like, you know what, I'm going to try to actually be on camera and actually like, you know, just see what YouTube is about type of thing. My very first step into that actually came from, and this is going to sound weird, but it actually came from meditation. So I meditate on a regular basis, and at that point in my life, I was actually meditating like way more than I do now, typically like a couple times a day or whatever. And in that particular point in my life, I was in the process of wanting to leave one thing, but I didn't know what the next thing was, right? And this is a kind of like a joint situation with my brother and I, because we had like a media service, and with that service, we got some difficult clients, and with that, we ended up having to like have a conversation where we're like, you know, we're creative, we love being creative. However, our bread and butter clients that we have completely suck, and we don't want to do this anymore. What can we do? And neither of us had an answer, so we had to go and explore. And then from there, one of the things that I started exploring was internet marketing, which was cool. And within internet marketing, one of the things that people said in there was that, you know, you can use YouTube to build a YouTube channel. And I guess apparently I saw that in.
Oh no! And boom, there we go.
Get it.
All right, now we have some audio and some video.
Part of the gig.
It is. Yeah, it's the part of the gig that makes me most nervous. I'm telling you right now. All right, I think we have you back. And actually, it looks a lot better. Maybe I should have come to terms with this
Okay.
Google Hangout thing before. Can everybody hear Nick properly on the stream?
Check
That's the
one,
big
check
question.
two.
Awesome, awesome. It looks like we're
Microphone check, microphone check.
it looks like we are totally there. All right. So let's get back to it. So
All right.
how long well what's your release schedule like these days?
I typically put out 2 videos a week plus a live stream. If I'm traveling a lot, then I'll go down to 1 video per week, and that's it. But when I'm here, like when I'm back home, then I'll do 2 videos and a live stream per week.
Awesome. So what's your favorite part about being a YouTuber? What is the thing that drives you to do this?
The community, like for me, like the fact that I can stand in my place and I can make a video and I can put it out there and tens of thousands or thousands or whatever, however many people end up seeing it, even if it's, 500 people, like however many people can see it, like it blows my mind that I can create something here, like right here, that I can create something here, and then I can just put it on the internet, and then like a bunch of people will get to watch it, and then I get to have all of that feedback coming from those people. Like for me, like that's the funnest part about it is the just being able to put it out there and just see what happens. So it's like you make a video and you get your hey, I'm gonna put this video out there and I think it's gonna do A, or I think it's gonna perform relatively poorly, but people need to hear this, whatever it is. Then it's like you put it out there and then you just kind of wait, and it's like, okay, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like how are people reacting to this? And then trying to figure out that side of it. Like, how can I get people to react more? So I'm deficient in this area. How can I fix that area? And then while fixing this area, you get deficient in this area. So it's like, okay, great. Now how can I fix this area over here? So you're, trying to find those patches and fix them and all that stuff. So it's, to be honest, it's almost the entire process that I thoroughly enjoy.
I can totally understand that. How long do you think it took you before you really kind of got it? Because you said you kind of started out like everybody else, but at some point you do have to look at the analytics and figure out what you're trying to accomplish. How long did it take you to get to that point?
So I had the fortunate experience of working with another YouTube creator on another channel, and during that process, it really opened my eyes to how things it started to open my eyes to how things work. And it started to open my eyes in terms of like the power of YouTube and how like strong the influence was coming from YouTube and video content. And through that experience, like part of that experience was like I had to learn like how to read stats. I had to learn, the important sides of like branding, not just visual branding, which was like part of my background, not just visual branding, but like, deeper branding, like stuff that, that connects people at the core type of stuff. Right. Like in terms of like, the language that you use in your videos, like the secret words that you use or the group names and, all that stuff. Like, learning all that stuff was part of that. And what that did is that whole thing there lit my fire to the point to where when I came back to my current channel, like I was primed. You know what I mean? Like I was primed, I was ready, still had a lot to learn, but I was primed and I was ready to start going through that process because I was motivated and determined, right? So because of that, that's when I started really digging in and trying to get like a deeper understanding of like how analytics works and try to get just a deeper understanding of how to connect with people at a higher level or a deeper level, I should say, and things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. So what sort of process do you use now when you create a video? I'm sure it's very different than a lot of YouTubers. I know for me, it's definitely different than what I use. So what, from ideation to actually filming and releasing, what's that process like for you?
So the process, I can actually show you visually what it looks like coming out of my brain. So this is what it looks like coming out of my brain, right? So basically this is like where I take my ideas that I have for videos and then I start actually piecing them together. And then while I'm piecing them together, I'm actually, if you see the arrows on there, I'm actually figuring out like what videos I can loop into other videos and how I can connect the different videos to each other and things like that. So basically my process now, which wasn't when I began, was not only how can I get people to watch one video, but how can I get people to watch more videos? So it's like, how can I get people to watch longer and all that? But like my thing now is like, I want to keep people just jumping, right? I want to keep people jumping from video to video to video to video. So my process is I've got, you know, a humongous list, an endless list of video ideas. But then I have to think, okay, with the videos that I've put out recently, how are people responding to those videos in terms of me being able to convert them into subscribers, in terms of the view counts they're getting, things like that? And will that give me a little bit of a cushion, depending on if they've been responding at a high, at a high level? Will that give me a little bit of a cushion to experiment with some different stuff? So what happens in that situation is, like, you'll see, like recently I put out a video on, or I put out over the course of a few weeks, I put out a video on like creators that you should follow. And then I chased that like a couple weeks later with like a female creators you should follow. Like both of those, I've done similar content to those, but I was trying to just kind of nail those specific pieces of content, which I failed completely on one of them. But the process is basically get it swollen and then use that to that cushion to start experimenting. And then once the numbers start kind of falling a little bit, if I can't get anything to rise, then if the numbers start falling a little bit, then I know the content that I need to make in order to start bringing things back up again. Because again, it comes down to following the audience, right? So like I know the stuff that people respond to. So it's like, okay, well, if I have, like if things start to drop a little bit, kind of like they are right now, actually, then I know, hey, this is the content that I have to make in order to get that machine working back in my favor again.
Awesome. And I guess that just comes from experience. Yeah, that comes from experience of knowing what content you do that really bumps the needle. That's really awesome. So,
and that's an advantage also, you know, that's an advantage of like having like a niche channel to where you're focused on serving a specific group of people, a specific type of content, because then you can really get tuned in to the nuances of the people that YouTube is showing your content to. Because like your audience isn't like your subscribers. That's your subscribers, right? Your audience is like the people, your potential audience is the people that YouTube is giving the impressions to, the people that YouTube is presenting your content to. And those are the people that are deciding if they're going to click on it or not. So the thing is like trying to fine tune your content based on the people that are watching your content now, saying, okay, well, YouTube, they're going to do their audience matching thing because that's what they do. So the system is going to go out and try to find other people like the people that are watching my content now. So how can I make that content, that future content, in a way based off of this current data, in a way that I know that those people will respond to too, because they're similar people. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And you know, a lot of the YouTube stuff is kind of mystified because people just don't understand. But the moment that you understand exactly what YouTube is trying to do, it certainly does make life easier.
It does. And really, if you break the entire thing down, because, you know, like everybody gets caught up in like, you know, and it's definitely like a part of it, and it's definitely something you have to be mindful of. But the people get caught up in like the algorithms and like all this like technical talk and all that. But like at the end of the day, if you just break it all down, and it's like, you know, there's a handful of things, and what you have to do as a content creator is you have to figure out how to get a response from those handful of things. That's it, right? And then you have to do that over and over and over and over again over a period of time, and then you're guaranteed results if you can figure out how to get a response from each point of the process.
Awesome. That's a heck of a nugget there. So what do you wish you knew when you first started YouTube that can help other folks on their YouTube journey? You know.
I can actually tell you, because when I first started, some of the things that were introduced to me, like we talked about a little bit ago, like when I first started, like I didn't understand the importance of branding on YouTube at all. I didn't understand the importance of you know, the deeper branding that we were talking about on YouTube. I didn't understand consistency, and I didn't understand the importance of like interacting with your community or trying to even build a community, because like I was stuck in that how do I get subscribers, how do I get views thing. I wasn't thinking bigger picture, right? But as soon as you can start thinking like bigger picture and start thinking, okay, well, what is it that I'm actually trying to do here? Like, you know, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish for myself and for other people? Like, what is it that I'm actually trying to do? And then what is it that I need to make in order to facilitate whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And then once you can start doing that, and then you start applying what we were just talking about in terms of getting the reaction in each part of the process, then you basically just pave your road for whatever it is that you're trying to do. It might not
Amazing.
happen as fast as you want, right? It might not happen as fast as you want. It might take you years,
Mm.
right? Because people see my channel now. I've got 400,000 subscribers, and it's been a really good like 2.5 years now. But it's like since like 2017. But it's like before that, what people don't see is they don't see my stats were completely flat for a while. They don't see that, that slow part at the very beginning. What they see is all of a sudden Nick is everywhere, right? Because
Yes.
I started, fixing all of those things that people respond to. So what people started seeing was like, hey, all of a sudden Nick's everywhere. So he just like blew up out of nowhere. But that's not the case at all. Like they just don't see, like they just didn't know about me when I was in that same suck part that everybody goes through of trying to get the ball rolling, right?
It's the old adage, working for years to become an overnight sensation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it really is. And like there's some people that blow up overnight, but even them, like for the most part, like they've got a history that brought them to that point that made it possible. That history could be, they have actually a great example of this at Vid Summit last year. Peter McKinnon did a keynote and he was talking about that. He said, people look at my stuff and they're like, hey, Peter McKinnon blew up. He said, but what they don't see or what they don't talk about is they don't talk about all of the time that he spent working in a camera shop, and that taught him the intricacies of cameras and how they work and how to do good stuff. They don't see his magic and his performance background, so and all of the years of working in that, which basically led him to an understanding of how to put a really good piece of content together because he was an entertainer, right? Like they don't see that stuff. So it's like, even the people that do well where it seems like, wow, they just came out of nowhere, it's still that backlog of skills that they brought with them that they were able to apply to YouTube.
absolutely. And if you're not really growing up, or you don't grow up in an entertainment background, and you decide to do YouTube, then you have to kind of learn all those things on the fly. It just is what it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. One thing that I like to think about when I'm making content, and like one of the things that people tell me with my videos is that they're easy to understand, and like how I communicate the information is easy to understand and things like that. And that's because I understand that side of things, and I know that there's somebody watching my content. Let's say it's some kid who is just coming onto YouTube and he's trying to grow his gaming channel, and he's never done any. He doesn't even know what search engine optimization is, right? Or let's say that we have that person that's been working in a factory for 10 years since he's gotten out of college, or since he left high school, whatever it happens to be. And now he's introduced to this whole new media world on YouTube, and he's trying to get his footing, right? He doesn't know what audience retention is. He doesn't know what SEO is, right? So I try to communicate all of that stuff in a way to where I can try. Sometimes I blow it. Sometimes I'll throw the jargon in there, but I try to communicate in a way that it will have to where it's easy to understand, regardless of where people happen to be at in that journey, because I know that it takes a while. It takes a while to get the lingo. It takes a while to understand, how things work. And it even takes a while to ask the right questions in terms of, like people are so focused on like views and subscribers when they should be asking, what do I want out of this? Like, why am I putting all this time into YouTube? Why am I making all these videos? Right? Instead of just thinking like, hey, I want to make videos and put them up on YouTube. What's really going on? Like, why are you really putting up videos? What are you really trying to accomplish? That's what they should be thinking about. They shouldn't be thinking about how to get more views and subscribers until they know this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And then if they know what it is they're trying to accomplish, the views will always be important, but the subscribers, not so much, because that number might not even matter if you have a bigger picture in mind that isn't based on your subscriber count, right?
Yes.
So you have to evolve through the process in order to even start asking the right questions, which is a crazy part of the whole thing.
That's what makes it so complicated. It really does. How long did you YouTube basically solo? In other words, that's part of the process that I struggle with every day, is I don't have a budget to hire a guy to edit or to help me do SEO. I'm doing YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all those social media aspects of trying to bring the channel together. And most folks probably in the room are. how long did it take you to get to the point where you could hire a virtual assistant to help you with some of this stuff, or an editor, or things like that?
Let's see. I've been on YouTube since September of 2014, which puts me in September about 5 years. So let's say almost 4 years.
Okay. So it's a
So,
long
so I,
process.
yeah, it's a long process, because even when you are generating income from your channel, there's still the side of, okay, well, if I'm not, and I talked about this in the TubeBuddy stream, to where it's like, if I'm not going to be editing videos, what am I going to be doing with that time? If I don't know yet, then I'm just going to keep editing videos, right? Until I come to that thing to where I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not editing videos, this is exactly what it is that I'm going to be doing with that time. When I know that, then that's when you should go out and try to find an editor. But it takes a while. Some people, like I know Roberto Blake, for example, like he prides himself actually on still editing his content because he enjoys that part of the process, and he knows that that's part of the grind. And he also knows that that keeps him connected, so to speak, with creators, because that keeps him in the same exact grind that they're in, right? So there's that side of things too, in terms of just saying, hey, when is the right time to actually do that? But for me personally, it took a while. It took a really long time. And right now there's even stuff that I need help with, but I'm still doing it myself just because I'm not to that point yet to where I'm like, okay, now we're in the phase to where I can have somebody start doing that also, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you live in Thailand.
Yeah.
How did this come about? How long have you lived in Thailand?
So October of this year will be 13 years in Thailand. And the thing that got me over here actually was I got out of a relationship. And when I got out of that relationship, it was, it was a good relationship, and I had trouble with it. And when I got out of that relationship, I was struggling, and my brother lived here already, and he hit me up and he was like, hey dude, I know you're like having a rough time right now. You're single now. If you want to come over to Thailand, if you can take a month and come hang out, all expense paid trip, come over, I'll show you around the country and we can just hang out. And I was like, awesome, right? Because he was giving me that opportunity to come over here and do that, hang out with him, and also kind of, shake things up in my brain instead of just sitting there moping around, right? So I came over here and I was like, wow, dude, this is incredible. And at the time, he was doing his media thing, and with that, I was telling him, I was like, man, I would love to do this, but I've got stuff going on, back there, whatever. I'd love to kind of live this lifestyle. And he was like, if you want to, I'll mentor you and show you, how to do what I do, and so on and so forth. And I was like, yeah. And then, we did that remotely, while I was, back in the States, and he was still over here for a while. And then once that got sustainable, then it was like, come over here. So I came over here for the first year, just to kind of make sure that I could, stay here and enjoy it and all that stuff, to make sure that it was as cool as I thought. And once I was here for that first year, I went back and sold the remainder of my stuff, and that was it.
Well, that's fantastic. So what's it like to work with your brother and do kind of the same thing? I'm always fascinated by that process.
It's awesome. We've been working together for a long time on the other stuff also. So it's like we've been working together for a long time anyway, and it's always been awesome. But with YouTube, there's like a different dynamic to YouTube, because like when you're doing, when you're doing like a media company, and like my side of that was design, but it's like when you're doing that kind of stuff, the interaction is you, or in that case, it was me, my brother. From time to time, we'd have like another guy or two in there, like helping us. And then there would be like the clients that you would talk to, right? And like that was it. Like that's as big as the circle got. But on YouTube, it's such an amazing thing because it's one, it's global, and two, like you build these big communities around what it is that you're doing, and you start to recognize people and interact with people like on the different platforms and stuff. And that whole thing is yeah, D's in the chat right here saying he's been trying to get me deported ever since.
Yeah.
That's nice. But like with YouTube though, there's this whole community dynamic, and it makes the whole thing like so positive and uplifting on all aspects of it, that it makes working with him in that situation like that much cooler, because it's like not only do we get to experience something cool, not only do we get to like be good at it and excel, but we also get to foster our own like positivity through it and help other people through it while getting to hang out in the process and work on stuff together. So yeah, it's awesome. That's part of why we stream for so long on Saturdays, because we just love it so much. So it's like, we hang out on Saturdays and we'll stream for until we just get exhausted and we can't stream anymore. And that's just because we love the process. We love hanging out. We love, the interaction with the community, and we love hanging out with each other.
That's awesome. And when it can be family, it's fantastic. It took my wife maybe 6 months before she bought in, and that really only happened because she saw the interaction that I had with the community. And now the community that's with me on my live show on my other channel every day is like family for us. And then so you kind of have your brother as part of like your mastermind group. He's somebody that you can work through your channel plan with, or your channel strategy. I'm a big proponent of a mastermind group. I have a few people, a few close friends that I'm in constant contact with to help work through all the analytics and video planning, and even watching my stuff to say that sucks or that doesn't suck or that thumbnail's horrible, and I'm still
that hard
struggling with
honesty.
that.
Yeah.
Yes. So did you have that when you first started out, or did that just come about when you moved to Thailand and got with your brother?
Even when I first started on YouTube, here's the thing, and other creators go through this too, so I'm not ashamed to share it. Like when I first started out on YouTube, I kind of kept it a secret. So
Oh yeah.
the very first video, like I was saying before, the first video I put on my channel was how to overcome camera shyness. One of the things that I had to overcome was like, what if somebody finds out I'm doing YouTube, right? Because I was that guy that was just putting up videos, and I would get like 100 views on a video, right? So it's like, what if somebody finds out that I'm doing YouTube, or they can give me a hard time about it, that kind of stuff. So I kept it a secret for a while. And like at one time, like after I had a handful of videos, actually it was right when I started working on the other channel. I was like, oh yeah, I got a YouTube channel, and he checked it out. He's like, wow, this is really good, and gave me like, props on it, so to speak. And then from there, he helped me shoot, other content and stuff, because we traveled a little bit, and that was cool because like we would be in Japan and we'd make videos for the other channel in Japan, and like in the Grand Canyon in the States, and things like that. So having him in it then was also cool. However, he wasn't in it as a creator himself. So because of that, like the behind the scenes struggles that you go through in terms of like, coming up with that next piece of content to make, or like putting out the videos that you think are going to do well, or your channel doing good or not doing as good as you think it should be, like all that stuff, like those conversations couldn't really be had yet, just because it wasn't, like he wasn't in the creator world yet. So that understanding of what it feels like wasn't there. So because of that, I would, talk to people, other creators online and all of that for that type of support. But once he came in, though, yeah, it's been amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm kind of proud that I went through the same thing where you didn't want to admit that you were a YouTuber. It wasn't that you didn't want to admit it. It's kind of the dirty little secret. And my wife was the first one to just start telling folks, hey, this is what he's doing. He's really having fun, and he loves it, and he's not too bad at it. I don't know if that was a lie or not, but so that's kind of cool. So do you have that video that you created that you wish that you could just take down, but it's so darn popular? You hate it, but it's popular.
I don't. I've had a handful of videos that I've taken down, and it was just because like I would go back in and I would post optimize them, and no matter what I did, I just couldn't even get like, random views coming into them over the course of the month. So I was just like, okay, people just aren't digging these. They're gone. Right. So I have videos that I've taken down. But in terms of like videos that have done well that I wish that I could take down, I can't say that I do have those, just because I think like with all of this stuff, it's all like for all of us, it's an evolution. And I think that people understand that. And because of that, like I've got videos that I put out to where, like I over processed the exposure or the plugin that I use for my stuff. Like I over processed it and made my face look kind of weird. Or like I had a thing like when I first started uploading videos with the DSLR that I picked up at that time. When I first started uploading the videos, I didn't know that inside of Vegas that I had to disable resample when I had the different frame rates. I didn't even know until some guy came in my comments and he was like, hey idiot, just as a heads up, if you're using Vegas, you need to disable the resample because you're getting all this ghosting. And at first I was like, oh, what a jerk coming in here calling me an idiot about that. But then I was like, oh, wait a minute, I wonder what this is. And then I started Googling around and I was like, oh my gosh. And from that point forward, the videos were better. But like for all of those videos before that happened, I wish that, that I had known that so that those videos wouldn't look weird, but people still like them. Like they still get views, they still help people. So because of that, as long as that keeps happening, then those videos will stay online.
Yeah, I have lots and lots of older content that's not related to what I'm doing now, and it's hard to take it down just because it tells the story. It tells the history of
Yeah.
what I'm doing. Um, so as a YouTuber, what's your biggest failure, and how did you overcome it, and how can how can it help other people?
My biggest failure as a YouTuber would be burning myself out. So when I went and did that other channel that I talked about earlier, that All Our Questions channel, like I was having so much fun making that channel that I would like not do other work because of it. And like I would be like, okay, I've got this design customer that needs this, but I need to make a YouTube video. And I would default to the YouTube video. And because of that, it would start causing me additional stresses, right? Which ultimately ended up leading to the burnout. But it was like my biggest mistake was not managing my time properly and not prioritizing things properly for that in order to give that the time that it needed in order for it to grow. At that particular time, I didn't have a deep understanding of the importance of waiting in terms of, like this stuff does take time. Even if you're doing everything right, it can still take time. And I heard it and I knew it, but I didn't really know it. You know what I mean? So it was like at that point in time, like I was even advised, only upload the amount of videos that you can sustain for a really long time, because this is a long game. And if you don't do that, you're going to burn yourself out. So what did I do? I'm all in. Right. And I went straight to like 3 times a week, which is, as a new content creator, 3 times a week is insane, because that particular type of content, I had to research the content because it was educational content. So I had to research the content. I had to understand the content, or I had to understand the research enough in order to simplify the information to share it into a video format. And then at that time I was writing scripts. So I'd then go and write the script for it. And then I would have to make the video, which the video editing took me longer, recording took me longer, and all that stuff at that time. So the entire thing, like I messed it up, right? Like I messed up that entire project because, one, I didn't take the advice I was given, and two, because I went too hard, where instead of just giving up on that channel, I should have said, you know what? I'm not going to upload 3 times a week. I'm going to upload once a week, or I'm going to upload once every 2 weeks or whatever, just to keep it going until I can get like an understanding of what's going on. But it's one of those situations where you don't know until you know, right? So it's like, now looking back to my old self, like I'm like, what are you doing? Why did you do that? Right? But at the time, I was just operating with what I thought was right at the time and what I thought I could handle, and how I thought things worked, and that sort of stuff. So that in my brain would be my mistake, because I personally think that even though this current channel's, it's doing fantastic, I do think the value that I'm able to offer on my current channel is better, and I do feel great about that side of it. But I think in terms of like channel size, like I think that the other channel would have been way bigger than my current channel right now.
That's yeah. I'm kind of in this. Yeah, the same kind of process that everybody appears to go through. Ask questions, try things says, how often is it worth revisiting SEO on past older videos now that YouTube seems to be resurfacing older videos? So I guess older stuff, how often should you revisit it if it's just kind of sitting there dead? I would assume, because if it's already working, what's the point? But
yeah, give them 3 to 6 months before you go in there and you start tweaking things. And the reason for that is because sometimes you'll put out a video now and it might take 3 to 6 months for it to get legs on it. So because of that, I would give it like 3 to 6 months, especially if you're making content to where most of your content you're trying to rank for specific search terms or search phrases. In that case, I would definitely wait 3 to 6 months on it before you go in. Like some people will screw themselves up because if the video isn't performing well in like the first 2 weeks, they go and they just start changing everything, and then they'll give it another 2 weeks and they'll start changing things again, but they don't give it time to actually find its place. So because of that, I would recommend that you wait like 3 to 6 months before you go in and start re-optimizing everything. What you can do is you can actually make it part of your schedule, make it part of your routine, to where it's like, okay, I'm producing new content up here while I'm working forward on this back content. So you're kind of moving through all of it together. Like as you're making new content, you're going through and you're re-optimizing your older content on a schedule, but that's on like a 3 to 6 month delay.
Okay, would that apply to thumbnails as well? Let's say you go into a
Yep.
video that's a week old and the click-through rate blows. You would still leave it?
Well, with the thumbnail, I would start messing with those after a week.
Okay.
If you're getting a lot of traffic, you can even do that sooner. Like if you're getting like a lot of traffic hitting your video, then you can do that quicker. But if you are, if you're getting like 5,000, 10,000 views, like I would wait a week before you start messing with that. But as soon as that week is up, like you should do that anyway. Like you should go in like if you use a template like I do, then you should at least go in and like change text in that template, for example, to see if you can find something that people respond to better. Or if you have thumbnails to where it's just like an image of some kind, go and just experiment. Use TubeBuddy's A/B testing tool and experiment so that you can figure out which ones people respond to, because just that by itself is going to teach you a ton. Because what starts happening when you start running tests on all of the stuff that you're doing is in your mind you have how you think things work, and sometimes you're right, but other times you're extremely wrong. So you have that in your mind, like this is how I think things work. But what's great with testing everything and applying all of that is you have it from this is how I think it works to this is what the data is telling me works. So then you can start making real decisions that aren't based on like your biases and your opinions and like your like, well, I would do it this way type of thing. Like you start getting like hard data on like what people actually click on. So for that, I would definitely, I'm actually wearing a TubeBuddy shirt right now, as a matter of fact, because I just came off one of their live streams. But yeah, I would definitely use the A/B testing tool for that.
Ah, okay. So Rachel Rawson asks, how busy are you besides the YouTube? Like, how thinly do you have to spread yourself from day to day?
And real quick, I want to say that Mike's got a TubeBuddy link in the description below. So make sure that you go through that if you're going to go check out TubeBuddy. You can try it free through the link in the description below. So how thinly am I stretched out? I'm not stretched out too thin actually. So I like to I have a thing where I like to always be like working on stuff. So because of that, like I have some irons out there, some I need to pull out and actually like focus on a little bit more. However, like I don't yeah, like I'm not really stretched too thin. Like for today, for example, like I went out and I have a friend here that has another YouTube channel, and I went out and I hung out with them for most of the day and helped them shoot a music video for their channel, and that was just like a fun thing to go do. And then after that, I came home. I don't even think I got home until maybe I left at, let's see here, like 9:30 this morning, and I didn't get home until maybe 8 o'clock p.m. And all of that time in the day is time that I, could have just sat at Starbucks if I wanted to, or I could have cruised my motorbike around, or I could have been sitting in here working, depending on what I was feeling at the time. But then, like, once I got home, though, at that 8 o'clock, then it's like, okay, go time, right? And then I'll be up, because right now it's 12:15 here, so I'll be up probably for another like 2, maybe 3 hours here locally. But I'm a night owl, so that's completely cool with me. But in terms of like the workload and stuff, like now, not that bad. Like there's a lot going on, but it's all managed in a good way. Where before, like I had a period of time to where I was like really stressing out, and it was in that transitional part. Like that's a really hard transition to make, or it can be a really hard transition to make, because like if you're somebody like, do you have a job, Mike?
I do not. This full-time YouTube is what I do.
Okay, nice. So for the people in the chat that do have that have jobs, it's like you have your or a business, whatever it happens to be, but you have your thing that you do, and then when you start YouTube, you have your thing that you do plus YouTube. So it's like, okay, well, I've got the pressures of this and just the normal stuff that comes with that. Now I'm gonna lay this whole other thing on top of it, and then it can get stressful. Like when you start getting to that point to where it's like, okay, well, I've only got so much time that I can work on this particular thing, and then now I'm starting to dig this thing, or this thing's starting to pay off enough to where I don't really need this thing over here as much, and I'm really wanting to make that jump, but you're trying to hold on to both, and it starts becoming really stressful, and it can be really difficult, and it can be scary to actually say, you know what, I'm just going to go all in, and I'm going to take that leap in order to try to make it happen. But like when you're doing a job plus YouTube, it can get pretty heavy. in terms of just the pressure and just the stresses of dealing with both. Because like it or not, like even though it's a fun process, like when you're just getting started and you're trying to actually, like if you're somebody that's actually trying to make YouTube like work out for you financially, like when you're trying to make that transition, like that's a pretty big leap of faith that you have to take, especially if you're somebody like I've been working for myself in some form or fashion since I was like 19 years old. So I'm more experienced on like taking the risks and things like that. So even though it was stressful, it wasn't like a thing that I was necessarily afraid of. Now, for a lot of people, the fear of saying, well, I'm working this, and this is like I've worked my whole life and then up to this point, and then now I'm going to go into this world where like I'm doing my own stuff and I'm responsible for like every move that I make, and I can't go and say, hey boss, what do you think I should do here? Or, hey manager, what do you think I should do here? Like there's no higher up. You're dealing with everything yourself. So like being like having the courage to take that leap can be extremely stressful for people, and the pressure involved with that and the fear behind that adds to that stress can be pretty intense for people.
Absolutely. So this must be an inside joke question, but Jay Littman says, when are you finally going to make a video about how to cook cakes? I feel like you've done enough research at this point.
That's funny. Yeah, so the inside joke there is like when I give an example of the TubeBuddy keyword explorer, I basically do the phrase that I try to look for is how to cook a cake. So instead of baking a cake, it's like how to cook a cake. So with that, it's just kind of like a thing that we do in the live stream. So it's just a fun joke.
Karen Summers asks how you keep coming up with subjects when you're doing tutorials for so long.
There's a few different things. One is, like I was saying before, like I'm always trying to kind of break out like with some, it's new stuff that I've never said before, like a new spin on it that I've never said, or just make like a video that's like, hey, you have to hear this, right? And if it performs well or not, don't care. I just put it out there anyway. So like when I'm in that, like, I just got to make something different, then I'll go that route to where it's like, hey, either this is a message that people need to hear, or this is just something I need to get off my chest, or whatever it happens to be. That's where those videos come out. In terms of the actual videos, for most types of content, it's really easy to come up with things to make videos about. With tools like TubeBuddy, with the Keyword Explorer, with the autocomplete inside of YouTube, the autocomplete inside of Google, your own comments, magazine racks, on stuff that you talk about, like all of that stuff is like, if you just put in that time and like, okay, I'm going to use all these things to figure out things that people are looking for about my topic, then you'll just get an endless sea of video ideas. And then it comes down to like, okay, well, which ones do I actually want to make? And then which ones do I think will be good for my channel at this point in time, right? So in terms of like the amount of ideas, like it's just endless. It's just an endless sea, especially with my comment section. Like I'm launching a podcast from my comment section. so basically like so I'm taking comments and then I'm basically just answering comments in that podcast. I'm calling it Comments Over Coffee. This should be going out in like a week or two, but it's called
Awesome.
Comments Over Coffee, to where it's a short amount of time, so that people can basically like enjoy the podcast over a cup of coffee instead of having to dedicate like an hour to the podcast, for example. But yeah, like comment section alone, if I didn't use any other method except for my comment section, I would be able to come up with an endless amount of ideas also.
That's fantastic. Michael Cordero asks, what made you decide to start the Creator Spotlight?
Creator Spotlight?
Yes.
What is the Creator Spotlight?
I don't know, so I'm not sure if that question is actually, I don't know. That's what someone asked in the chat, which is somewhat interesting.
I'm not sure what the Creator Spotlight is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. But I figured I'd ask because maybe you were doing something that I wasn't aware of. Oh my goodness. So are there any YouTubers out there in your niche that you have not collaborated with yet that you're like, I gotta get with that guy. I gotta collaborate with him?
In my niche, I think I've collaborated with, actually I have one that we talked about at Clamor Summit with Matt Geelan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him or not, but he is he's like an industry guy. and he just recently started a YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is Little Monster Inc. or Little Monster Media Company is what it is, Little Monster Media Co. And he is extremely smart, and he knows YouTube in and out, and he does like case studies on like how, you know, the algorithm works and things like that. He puts out like white papers, all this, like, you know, he's a really, really smart dude. So so I'm wanting to do a collaboration with him, which we will do. We just have to find the actual time to do it. But outside of that, though, I think for the most part, in my space that I've collabed with everybody that I, you know, that was on my list, so to speak. But outside of that, yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of my space. Yeah.
So when you're just chilling out and you're not physically thinking about YouTube or doing YouTube, are there creators that you enjoy just watching?
D Nimmin, my brother. Yeah, I watch his videos, but I just critique him though. I'm like, oh, why'd you say that? Oh, and I'm like, oh, you nailed that one. That was great, right? No, like my thing when I watch YouTube is I'm stuck in this thing of like examining. So it's like difficult to watch videos, just like sit back and watch videos. I have to go to Netflix or something like that for that. But what I'll do is I'll just click around and watch stuff. So I like to watch Evan Carmichael. Some of his videos are really good on just, you know, just motivational stuff to where it's like, oh yeah, you know, just using it as like an inspirational type of thing. Like he does a morning or like a daily video now on like a morning motivation. Those are cool also. Let's see here, what else? Yeah, off the top of my head, those. And I'll pop into lives a lot, actually.
Awesome.
I'll pop into live streams. Yeah, I'll pop into live streams a lot. And I'm actually going to scroll down my page here really quick just to see if there is anybody else that I need to. Oh, Brian G. Johnson, I watch his stuff too. Everybody in my space, I watch all their stuff. Henny the Business, I like him because I mess with music a little bit on my iPad, so I'll watch his stuff. Peter McKinnon, of course. The usuals.
I have a funny musical question, actually. Pauline Newman asks if you still love music. And for those of you folks who do not know, Nick had some sort of an association with Two Live Crew, which I'd love to know more about. But Pauline Newman asks if you still have a love for music and if you're interested in rapping on one of her songs. She's a fantastic singer, by the way.
I would love to rap on one of your songs to start. So absolutely, I'll gladly hop on any track that you would like, for sure. Two is the Two Live Crew thing. Basically what that was is in my old life when I lived in the States, one of the things that I got into was was like making like instrumentals and stuff like that. I just enjoyed doing it. And then like a friend of mine heard them, and then he's like, hey, I've got some friends that are rappers. And I'm like, cool, you know, bring them by. And then, you know, we got along well. And so next thing you know, I started having like all these rappers coming around, and I was, you know, making instrumentals for them and stuff. So what happened on the Two Live Crew thing was one of the groups that I was making music for, they, through someone they know, got the opportunity to open up for Two Live Crew. Now it wasn't like a coliseum. It was like a smaller venue because they're, you know, like they were on the downside of their thing. But basically what happened was they were opening up for him, and one of the guys in the group couldn't get off of work. So they were like, hey, you know his material, you know how to rap, all that stuff, and you know the song in and out. Do you want to do his part? And I'm like, of course. Yes, I absolutely do. So, you know, so I basically went up and I did his part. So it wasn't just me. It was like me up there, part of their thing, doing his lines. So yeah, so that was it. But it was still, you know, the idea is still there, you know, still got to open for Two Live Crew, which is cool. Gives me something fun that I can say and talk about.
Man, that's awesome. That is fantastic. I'll bet you a lot of people in here didn't know that. I certainly didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Well, we have about 4 minutes left, Nick. I really want to thank you so much for coming by. And one more question: where do you see your channel going in the future? Is the niche that you're in now what you want to continue to do? Are you thinking about branching out and doing some other things, or what can we look forward to from Nick Nimmin in the future?
Right now I'm going to keep moving forward because I think that it's important to keep making the type of content that I make because like if somebody just subscribes to my channel today, okay, let's say somebody's coming onto YouTube right now as we're having this conversation, and that's happening. Let's say somebody's coming onto YouTube right now. And then let's say a week from now, they're going to start looking around because they're going to put out videos and they're not going to do any good. And they're going to start looking around like, man, how can I get views on this? Let me see how I can get views. Right. And then they're going to end up running into me. And just because they watch that one video on how to get views doesn't mean that they will watch my entire backlog. Right. So because of that, I have to keep bringing, this information to people because one, I gotta keep bringing current information. And two, I also have to keep making sure that it's in front of these people that are trying to learn, because with my channel, there's kind of like a progression, right? It's like people come in when they're first trying to learn, but like once they start getting a handle on things, then they'll only start coming in for like certain videos that they think like, oh, I didn't, I'm like, this seems interesting. What's a watch time trap? Let me go and watch this one. This seems interesting, right? So they'll only start coming in for certain videos then. Or people will just quit YouTube or whatever. But in terms of me putting out that same content, it's like as people go through the process, it's almost like they get to a point to where they're not watching hardly at all. They'll just come in for certain content. So for that, I need to keep replacing that with the new people that are coming in. And part of that means that I keep making new content that's current for those new people and explain it in whatever new way that I have to explain it to them as they are coming into the channel.
Yeah, and the funny thing is YouTube is constantly evolving and rotating, so that makes perfect sense that somebody who finds your content now may not go back 6 months because it could be out of date or whatever. That's kind of the beauty of being in the niche that you and I do, is that it's constantly changing. So you create a video on this subject today, and 6 months from now, it could be totally different, the strategy.
Yeah. But with one thing that I do is if something does go outdated, I'll take it off. So if something's like outdated, if it's like a feature to where it's like, hey, you used to be able to set a card at a general audience retention point, but now you can't do that anymore. So it's like little things like that to where you can't have that like automatic card that pops up. I have like a video or two that has that in there, but the rest of the features are still in there, so I leave it up, for example. But if anything happens that's like, okay, well that's just not how it works anymore, then I'll take those videos down, because the last thing that I want is somebody watching my content that's trying to learn how to do it, and I send them in the wrong direction, right? Because then I'm doing a disservice to them, which means that I shouldn't even be making videos.
Absolutely. The whole point is to help, and that's the beauty of the type of work that we get to do. I love it. Nick, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come hang out with us and answer all my silly questions. I hope that the audience got to know a lot more about you. I'm going to pop over to the other screen real quick if you want to hang on just a second. I'm going to close out the stream and let folks know
cool.
that.
And real quick, I just want to say before you close it out, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions about any of this stuff or whatever, definitely leave it in the comments of this, and I'll check over here over the next few days. And if I see a comment in there for any question that you have, then I'll hop down there and answer it for you.
Thank you, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to say goodbye to the folks and make sure I pass them over to Jay's stream. So I'll be right with you in a moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out here with me and Nick today. I hope I did the interview justice. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulty. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. Hopefully the audio was perfect. That's the most important thing. We want to hear what Nick has to say. It's been a pleasure to spend this hour with you and Nick. Guys, I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to my channel, take a moment, go ahead and do so. This is the kind of stuff we try to do every single Wednesday with all kinds of different YouTubers. If somebody could please drop a link to Mr. J. Lippman's live stream. He is coming up right after me, and he's going to be doing some fantastic stuff so that you can learn more about the filmmaking process. He's really good, one of my good friends. Thanks a lot today. Thank you so much to Nick Nimmin for coming and hanging out with me for an hour, and it's been awesome. I was so excited before this. I'm even more excited afterwards because I can just see all the value that you guys hopefully got out of this. It's been a pleasure. Do me a favor, guys. Go out there and make the best of your day. You're only getting one, June 5th, 2019. Make the best of it. Make it memorable. I worked 17 years at the same job. I don't remember a single stinking day. So I like to go out there and make every day memorable. Today is definitely one of those memorable days. I hope you do the same. Go out there, find your adventure, guys. Have a great day. And I will see you really, really soon. Thank you.